Ladies and gentlemen, the college basketball season is almost here. You know it's almost here because the preseason AP poll has arrived. We here at Sleepers Media are here to help you break it down. I'm Greg Waddell. This is my co-host Carter Elliott. We do this live show every single week at Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And we've got some big plans this season with Bleacher Report for some awesome live content for you. This is just one of many things you can come to expect from us. Today, the plan is this. We will go through the AP poll. We will isolate a few of our most important takeaways, some things that surprised us and got our attention, but just our general takeaways to all of the top 25 teams and a few teams that narrowly missed the poll. If you're a regular watcher of this program, you may notice we have this awesome PTI style rundown for you on the screen, which I know has Carter excited because he never runs and his team always lets him down. Carter, how excited are you that we have some new look rundowns here?
Man, so pardon the interruption, little thing there. Not pardon that bad joke, but pardon that bad joke, Gregory. Look, I'm very excited for this. The AP poll coming out is a sign of the season getting closer and closer. I no longer have to hear coaches talk about this player shooting the best they've ever shot over the summer or this player being in the best shape they ever been all summer. It's all about game time now, and it's right on the horizon, my dog.
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much, Michael. Will eat. This should be a really fun show. All right. So there were some teams not in the AP poll officially that did get some votes. Let's just quickly run through the teams just outside of the top 25. Virginia and St. Mary's, both with 2 votes, just narrowly missing. You've got Indiana, Oklahoma, and Baylor also with 1 vote. Those are all teams at the very bottom of our other teams who got votes section. You can see the teams that were the closest to the poll on the right side of the screen right now. It's NC State, who is technically the 26th team in terms of votes, Oregon, San Diego State, Texas, and Ohio State. Carter, are any of these teams that just missed the AP poll teams that you are most frustrated about not being in the poll?
I was very surprised to see NC State and Oregon not make it. I think Oregon has a really good core coming back from a team that was pretty good last season. Obviously, Shellstad and Biddle lead that pack. And then obviously with NC State as well, they did one of the best jobs in the portal, getting maybe the best player or one of the best players in the portal, and Darion Williams, preseason ACC Player of the Year. Will Wade is one of the best coaches in the sport. And like that graphic says right there, Matt Abel is going to be one of the recruits to watch this year. I think it's going to be really fun. Trey Holloman also on that team now. I'm very surprised that they were not only ranked or not ranked in the AP poll, but also like North Carolina was ranked and NC State wasn't ranked. So I know that means something to the folks inside those state lines.
Yeah. Yeah, that rivalry is going to be really fun to watch this year. I think you could have put both these teams in the lower half of this poll. You could have left both teams out of it. I wouldn't have been overly upset about it, but I agree with you. Both NC State and Oregon, who I really like with Shellstad and Biddleback, probably deserving of being right on the edge here. Who would you have kicked out? Just quickly, because if we are going to make arguments for NC State to jump up in, we've got to push somebody out. Who would you push out?
It feels bad to go up this high, but I would probably push Auburn back a little bit given the new pieces they have, the new coaching. Kansas with Darren Peterson and Flory Badunga. I also think that those are 2 really good players, but I have some questions about the other players on that team. I think those are 2 teams I look at 19 and 20 that possibly could have moved back here.
Yeah, I like both of those shouts. Auburn's probably the team I'm most skeptical of. I also wouldn't be mad at anyone from Creighton on down being left out, but hey, you got to put 25 teams in the poll. There's also some teams in here I'm sure that we are higher on than normal. We'll hit on a couple of them as we continue on with the show, but let's get into our rundown style reveal now. First up, Cart, it's my favorite team in college basketball, the Michigan Wolverines. Higher in this poll than most people would expect. Dusty May has done a really, really good job with this roster in year 1, though. Is it too high to put this team firmly in the top 10? I believe they're 7th in the actual AP poll. Is that too high?
I think it's just right, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going, both playing both sides here, but I think that Dusty May secured the best player available in the portal in Yaxel Lendenborg. I think he went out and assembled probably the best front court, I think, in the sport between Yaxel Lendenborg, Marez Johnson, the transfer in from Illinois, and then also Ade Mara, the 7-footer from UCLA, who I think could reach a new level with Dusty May. And then also you have some good returning guards in Roddy Gale and Amari Burnett. They bring in Elliot Cadeau, which is a swing, but I think that Dusty did a really good job with this roster. And honestly, credit to Dusty for what he's done. As much as the questions I have about Dusty May and maybe like what he's going to end up being at Michigan, Greg, you were watching a program that was missing the NCAA tournament, and Jawan was going 8-24, I believe, in his last season. You now have Dusty in year two, basically pumping out a preseason top 10 AP team. That's got to feel good for you.
It's ahead of schedule for sure. I mean, look, I didn't know what to expect when Dusty May was hired, but I knew he was a good coach. I knew if you can take Florida Atlantic and turn them into not just a team that made a Final Four run, but a legitimate top 25 team the next year. Let's not forget, in the transfer portal era, Dusty May convinced John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, and Vlad Golden all to stick around at Florida Atlantic. That's the most impressive thing about his resume before he got to Michigan, in my opinion. He is an all-time people person, clearly, and I think that's resonated in the roster he's built now 1 year into this job. I would have fainted if you would have told me 2 years ago Michigan would spend top five in the money or in the sport money in the transfer portal. And that's what he did this summer. I mean, he got the most expensive player in the transfer portal. Yaxel Lendeborg was the biggest prize. Kentucky wanted him, and he chose Michigan. I think that's stunning. He's convinced both Marez Johnson and Ade Mara to, in theory, sign up to compete with each other. I mean, both these guys were off the bench at their previous school. You would think they both immediately go somewhere they can start. Instead, they are both committed to battling it out in a loaded front court. He's taking a reclamation project on Elliot Cadeau, but I think it's a risk worth taking after how limited last year's backcourt was in terms of shot creation for this team. And then you add Trey McKenney, who I say it all the time and you make fun of me for it, but it's true. This is a 5-star recruit that had a lot of serious interest from awesome programs, Michigan State, the in-state rival included, who is going to be Michigan's ninth guy. That's how loaded this team is in terms of talent. I think the roster alone is worthy of being at 7, even though there are some fit questions, but it speaks to the magnificent job that Dusty May has done in 1 short year. Let's jump to our chat. Reminder, this is an interactive live show, and we want your questions, your comments, everything you've got for us every step of the way. We start with Raf B. Brave, who says UNC will be a lost program again under Hubert Davis. He isn't it.
I don't like being put in this position because I am of the belief that UNC won't reach their ceiling with Hubert Davis as the head coach. But we do have to say this, Greg. Uh, Hubert Davis has been to a national championship game. He has won the ACC. He has been in a Final Four, and I get it. It was a different team and it was a different time. But there is a world where Hubert Davis can get the best out of his team. I just haven't seen it the past couple years, and I'm not saying I believe it at all this year, but I like Bogovich. I like Caleb Wilson. The front court, I think, is an upgrade from last year's front court with Vasar and guys like Jaron Stevenson as well. So, you know what? If Hubert can't do it with this team, you show him the door.
Yeah, I think there are high floor coaches in college basketball and then high ceiling coaches. And I think both can be true with Hubert. You can simultaneously acknowledge that he has the ceiling of winning a national championship. He also just has the floor of missing the NIT. That's pretty rare at a program like North Carolina. Now, at some point, UNC fans are going to grow tired of it. It might be as soon as this season. But, on the flip side, you've got guys like Rick Barnes, Brad Underwood, conveniently 17th and 18th in this poll, where, they're almost always going to be top 20. They're probably never going to be top 5.
Mhm.
Like, which one would you take? Would you take the team that could make a national championship game, or would you take the team that's always going to make the round of 32? For me, I think it's worth North Carolina having some upside to bet on this team, and that's why they're in the top 25 as well. One more chat here from D1s who says St. John's better than UConn. I don't care what anyone says. Would you think that's crazy to have St. John's ahead of UConn?
Yeah, I think you should care what we say because UConn's better than St. John's. What are we doing here? Let's respect back-to-back national champion Dan Hurley, who has a chip on his shoulder, who built a roster that I think is going to be a statement to everybody else that he's back.
Carter, what would you say is my favorite part-time hobby?
Hating?
Asking you devious questions. Can I ask you a devious question?
I can't say no, can I?
If you flipped Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino, which team's better?
UConn.
So UConn with Rick Pitino coaching.
UConn's roster is better than St. John's roster, yes.
Okay. I think there are people who would argue Dan Hurley coaching St. John's would be ahead of Rick Pitino coaching UConn.
There's definitely maybe people that would do that, but UConn has the better roster. UConn has the better coach.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Some clarity. Last chat for now. Big Rob Grizz says, what are realistic expectations for the Terps with the new coach and the new squad? Buzz Williams at Maryland. Kevin Willard ran away in hiding in the middle of the night. What do you think from Maryland this year?
I think it sucks that the Rakees Passmore injury happened, that torn Achilles that's going to have him out for the season. I was actually very excited to watch him. Darius Adams is a freshman recruit that I think could have a really big role with this team. Pharrell Payne is a very proven post presence. And I don't know if it's going to be that great this year, to be honest with you. But if we know one thing about Buzz Williams, he's eventually going to have a team that has a very good system in view and makes NCAA tournaments. So if you're Maryland, I think you're fine with that.
Yeah, one of those high floor coaches that I talked about. You're almost always going to have the team that plays harder, dominates on the boards, and that's a good place to start when you're looking for a quick rebuild. As fun as last year's Maryland team was, I think there's going to be less variance with Buzz Williams, and you'll grow to love that over time. Okay, back to our rundown. You see the topics on the right. Let's move to topic 2 here. Let's talk John Shire's team, the Duke Blue Devils. Fresh off of his first Final Four run last year, out goes Cooper Flagg, Man, and Con Knipple. But Caleb Foster's back, Cart. Is this team disrespected? They're down at 6 on the AP poll. Some people would argue that's too low for a program of Duke's caliber, no matter who the players are. What do you think?
I don't think Duke is being disrespected, with all honesty. I think that as good as this Duke team is, I do think there are some question marks, specifically at the guard spot, right? I think you have Caleb Foster, who's going to be asked to play the point guard position. If it's not him, it's Caden Boozer, who I wonder why Caden Boozer, if he's as good as he is, isn't already ahead of a guy like Caleb Foster, who to me, Caleb Foster's just not a point guard. He's a two guard. And you're asking him to play point guard, and it's not what's best. It's not what's best for him. And then also, everyone always wants to bank on sophomore leaps. Greg, the thing about sophomore leaps is they aren't guaranteed. They don't always happen. Sophomore leaps don't always happen. You want Isaiah Evans to take a leap. I think he does. You want Pat Ngongba to take a leap. I think he does, but you're not sure what that leap exactly looks like. There's already questions too on like who's going to emerge at the 3 spot. Is it because no one can take a hold of it, or is it because you have so many options at the 3 spot? I think it could go either way. I think 6 is perfectly fine for Duke. In all honesty, it might even be too high, so it's definitely not disrespecting Duke.
Yeah, I think that's about where I land too. I would have put them right around 6. I wouldn't be mad if they're 1 to 2 spots higher or 1 to 2 spots lower. It's just a little unproven for me. Like, who's the leading scorer on this team? It probably should be Cam Boozer, who I love. I think he's great, but he's also not Cooper Flagg, and he's not as score first, in my opinion. He's kind of, a guy that impacts the box score on the boards defensively, even as a facilitator, as a point forward. He's very good, but this team's going to need Isaiah Evans to make a lot of shots. And he was pretty one-dimensional last year, kind of as a 5th option, an afterthought, not as the go-to scorer that every defense is going to target. So I'm perfectly content with them at 6. I think they definitely are a top 10 team in the preseason. But we also watched some of their first scrimmage, and I wasn't all that impressed. I mean, this team has questions, like you said, of who's bringing the ball up. I think they have questions in the post until Malik Brown gets back healthy. And you mentioned it with Caleb Foster. They might be asking him to do something he just can't do. It's like asking you to host this show. Like, you're a co-host. You're not a host. Like, what are you going to get,
Yeah, it's like asking you to have good posture. It's never going to happen.
It's just not going to happen. All right, back to the chat here. Texans on top 36 says, how is Purdue number 1? Carter, how is Purdue number 1?
Is Braden Smith on Purdue?
You mean the National Player of the Year favorite?
Yeah. Does Trey Kaufman-Renn play for Purdue?
You mean the returning All-American that averaged 20 and 6?
Yeah. Is Fletcher Lawyer on Purdue still?
You mean the best off-ball shooter in the country?
Did they have holes last season?
Yeah,
Did they
multiple.
fix them this offseason?
Yeah, multiple.
Matt Painter, the coach?
You mean the guy that just won the Wooden Legacy Award for coaching excellence?
Yeah, so I think that's why
Uh,
Purdue is number one. Should Houston be number one? Yes, but in that world, they should be number one. We're only paying attention to teams that are on the West Coast or something like that. I don't even know if Texas counts as the West Coast technically. Purdue's the number one team in the country. They got the best team. They got the National Player of the Year. They have two first-team All-Americans on their team, and every hole they had last season, they filled. Houston's incredible. Houston could cut down the nets. Houston could win it all. Don't get me wrong here. But Purdue's the preseason number one team.
Yeah, I want to just give you your props for a moment because I just put you on the spot as a host and called you a co-host, and then you just marvelously moved us to the next topic. It was like a segue on the fly. That was special, and I appreciate you. But I agree with everything you said. I think this should be the no-brainer number one team. I applaud the poll voters for actually getting there because this is not the consensus according to the analytics. Houston is the number one team according to Ken Palm. There's quite a few other sites you could go look for. Purdue is not the all end all be all number one coming into the season. I think they should be. Maybe that's Big Ten bias. You know, we're here in Big Ten country, but to me, the team with the best player, the team with three guys that started in a national championship game 2 years ago, before Milos Uzan was even at Houston. They have more vets, more age, more experience, the best offense in the country. I just think it's the no-brainer. Some people have put Houston and Purdue in the same tier, 1A and 1B. I would argue that's 1A, A for accurate with Purdue, and B for bad. That's a bad pick to put Houston at 1B. But do you put them 1A, 1B, or do you think it should be 1 and 2?
They're in the same tier.
Ooh, I don't know.
They're in the same tier.
So 1A, 1B? Or are you tiering me versus lettering me
I'm
right now?
tiering you versus lettering you.
So you're changing the framework of this. Got it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. So you wouldn't have been mad at all if Houston was one here.
No, I don't get mad.
That's pretty true.
I
All
get
right.
even.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's go back to the chat. Jordan Comfort 23 says Purdue getting the chip. Gonzaga is bad, right?
I think Purdue is obviously, if people tap into betting worlds and things like that, they are the betting favorite for a reason. If the Final Four is in Indy. I think everything about what Purdue can do this season, it should be national championship or bust. I know people hate that phrase, but I don't care. Purdue's team is built to do it. They have a good coach. I mean, it's now or never for them, in my opinion. So they should. Gonzaga is not bad. Gonzaga is going to be steady. I like Braden Smith, and also they have one of the best front courts in the sport with Huff and EK.
I'm wondering if my 2-year-old daughter has a Bleacher Report account. Because what was that? Purdue should be number one. They're winning it all, right? Gonzaga's bad, right? That's like my daughter who is just like, I want pizza, daddy. Ooh, squirrel. Like they're totally disconnected. What's going on there? Gonzaga's fine and Purdue's great.
Show some respect to Jordan Comfort 23, please.
That was a confusing comment to me. One more chat right now. Rickest Morty says Purdue is the all sleepers media number one team. That's what matters. We do love our Purdue here at Sleepers Media.
They're straight.
You're so tired of talking about how
I
great
mean, they're
this team is.
solid, man. Like they're good. They have everyone on their side. They don't need me.
I think they need you. I think you need them.
No, I don't need them. What I need is a MyFitnessPal account so I can count my calories. I beat you to it. Please keep us moving.
Let's move to the team that has won two of the last three national championships, the UConn Huskies. We have seen an early look at Dan Hurley's latest rendition of this awesome program. They had their exhibition game against Boston College on Monday. They did not have their starting center, Terrace Reed. They did not have their presumed starting point guard, Silas Demery, but first look at Braylon Mullins, Solo Ball, Alex Caravan all together. Malachi Smith looked pretty good at point guard as well. I think this team solved a lot of their problems from last year, most notably point guard and center. The pollsters agree. That's why they are number 4 in the AP poll coming into the season. Are you buying the UConn bounce back to the point that, man, if they finish 4th, we're talking 1 seed potential?
I am buying it, just because I think that, Dan Hurley at the start is one of the best coaches in the sport. And what the best coaches in the sport do is realize that their team is lacking in certain areas and that their team needs to fill certain holes. He did that this offseason. I think he did it probably the best of anyone in the country outside of Purdue, who's the number 1 team in the country. I think that he went out and he got himself 2 really good point guards in Silas Demery and Malachi Smith. I think he got Braylon Mullins, a really good recruit. I mean, Gee, you love to talk about how Trey McKinney on Michigan is like the ninth guy. The ninth guy on UConn is Jacob Furphy, who I think is eventually going to be an NBA player one day. So I just think this team is very talented. They're obviously well coached. And one of the scariest things in the world outside of me at a Golden Corral is Dan Hurley with a chip on his shoulder. That man is all manufactured psycho. And now you're actually giving him a reason because everyone's like, oh, Dan Hurley ain't got it no more. Oh, that back-to-back national championship was cute, but they were an eighth seed last year. They're not about that life anymore. I'm so afraid of UConn.
Yeah, Dan Hurley in his bag with a chip on his shoulder, and you with a bag of chips are the two scariest things that I've ever seen. Look, the only fear for me here is that UConn has a big jump to take. I mean, you see the number in front of you, 32nd in net rank last season. We're talking an enormous jump for this team to actually finish fourth at the end of the season. Now, I think it's likely to happen, and I think Demery's awesome. I think getting 2 point guards, not just one, Demery and Malachi Smith together, gives them a lot of insurance. I think Terrace Reed's primed to make a jump at the center spot, but even if he doesn't, Eric Ryby's a freshman that I love who projects to really have a Donovan Clingan like path through the UConn program at some point. I think they're deeper than last year. They really did solve their positional issues with impact players, and maybe most importantly, to like a ranking conversation. They're in the Big East, which, let's be honest, could be called the Mid East this year. I don't see many teams outside of St. John's that are going to affect this UConn team at all. I mean, I would not be stunned if they go undefeated in the Big East outside of the St. John's games. There's no other legitimate threats in this conference. They're going to have every opportunity to win a bunch of games.
Yeah, get ready to learn Jackson McAndrew, buddy.
Yeah, well, the bottom of the top 25 is like a different language for Dan Hurley this year. Back to the chat. Joe Barbino, who now has my vote for greatest name in the Bleacher Report chat room ever. Joe Barbino says people always on the Big Ten train have not won a title since 2000. UConn, the team to beat in March, period.
Yeah, didn't the national champs do that in the first weekend last year?
That's true.
Yeah, listen, it's not all about titles or bust. Never ever forget. Honestly, Joe Barbino, I feel like this is a great spot because obviously I think you're a Big East guy. Never forget that Kevin Ollie won a national championship. Anyone
What?
can do it. Anyone can do it. So I appreciate you saying that, but also there's a very real world where the Big Ten will get one. And also, who's the last Big Ten team to win a national title, Greg?
Well, now it's Maryland.
Oh, piss off.
Just saying. Jamal5243 says, I feel like Michigan State should be higher. That's the answer you were looking for. Do you think your Spartans should be higher than 23rd?
No, I think it should be lower, to be honest.
Are you honest or are you doing like a reverse psychology bit here?
No, I'm very honest. This is not a flip side correlation moment. I think we should be outside the top 25
Interesting. Why?
because I think we lost a lot of pieces from last year's team. I just don't think the roster is as good as last year. I think that Jace Richardson did a lot for that team, and I think we got, a good core coming back. But when you look at this, I think we're getting a pretty big boost in Tom Izzo being there and some other things happening with the team. But feels more like the 28th best team in the country, more so than the 22nd.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. This might be a flip side correlation card, but are we sure that it was Jace Richardson that won them games last year? Are we sure it wasn't camaraderie?
Could be.
Maybe they just like each other and the power of friendship powered them to a 3 game victory over the rest of the Big Ten.
The power of friendship can do so many things in this world.
It can. Look at us. Look how far
Look
we've
at
come.
us.
Okay, to a program that embraces friendship. If you've ever been to Provo, the friendliest college sports community that you will ever find, BYU is getting a lot of love headed into the season as the biggest dark horse national championship pick possible. I think that's fair to say. Eighth in the AP poll to come into this season. AJ DeBonsa, who was once the number one player in this class as a freshman, has now been surpassed by Darren Peterson. But man, all eyes are still on this loaded BYU team. Do you think 8 is too high, too low, or just right?
I think it's just right for this BYU team. And let me go ahead and dispel this thing. Coming from the biggest dark horse, they are not a dark horse. They're not. I think that this team is extremely talented. I think they have the best trio in the country. If you want to line up 3v3, give me Rob Wright, Give me AJ DeBonsa and give me Richie Saunders and let's hoop. And then let's eat Oreo fries afterwards. Shout out to my potatoes brothers. But I think that BYU is poised to make themselves actually known to a point where like last year isn't just like this little flash in the pan. I think that Coach KY, Kevin Young, is going to establish BYU as an upper echelon program. And I think that they are going to have one of the best players in the country. And I think that KY is going to make himself one of the best coaches in the country. So I think they're very properly rated at 8.
Or Ida. Pronunciation guide or Ida.
Oh, you are the potato pronunciation guy. Makes sense.
I mean, I'm a big French fry fan. Of course I am.
If you don't
Quickly,
like one,
you said they have one of the best players in the country. Stats and Research Department pinged me in to let you know that's wrong. They have three of the best players in the country.
hmm.
I think they have three different players on this team that are all American worthy. I think they're the only team that can say that. I think there's a world where AJ DeBonce is a first team All American. There's absolutely a world where Richie Saunders, the returning leading scorer, is a first team All American. And there's absolutely a world, in fact, there will be a world a year from now when DeBonce and Saunders both leave this program, that Rob Wright is a first team All American. Those three are insane, but it's more than just those three. If it was just those three and it was top heavy, they wouldn't be ranked eighth. There are questions about how those three will share the basketball, but they added the perfect role players between them. Moo Davis, the shooting guard who's going to start for this team, is like one of the best 3-and-D shooting guards you can find. Purdue wanted him. Like he could be on Purdue right now, and instead he's at BYU. They have depth. They have a bunch of bigs that are all interchangeable. Kadeem Boop is a name to watch, who's looked phenomenal in the offseason. Xavier Staten was a 5-star who's coming off the bench for this team at the 5. There's no shortage of talent or depth. It's going to be on Kevin Young to keep everybody happy. But if he can do that, 8th might end up being too low for this BYU team. Back to the chat. Let's start with Hayden, who says BYU will be nice, but I think they're a little unproven. Kentucky is better, in my opinion.
The thing is, we're doing like proven pieces. I mean, don't we have maybe more proven pieces on BYU?
There's nothing unproven about Richie Saunders or Rob Wright.
There's unproven about Jalen Lowe, in my opinion. There's unproven about Jay Acquaintance, Mo Diabate. There's a lot of unproven things. Now, the good thing for UK is that Mark Pope is really good at getting the best out of his unproven pieces. But I don't think the unproven thing is the angle I'd like to take with this Kentucky team.
Hey, Cart, was Kentucky ever ranked 9th in the AP poll before Mark Pope got there in the preseason?
No.
Were they usually higher or lower than that?
They weren't even there. Or they weren't present.
They weren't in the AP poll?
Are you talking about BYU or
I
Kentucky?
said, no, Kentucky. Before
Oh,
Mark Pope got to Kentucky, were they normally ranked 9th in the preseason AP poll?
no, they were ranked higher.
And then before Mark Pope left BYU, have they ever been ranked 8th in the preseason poll?
No, didn't even sniff it.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Interesting.
Rickest Morty says, now we are confusing horses and cows.
I think he's trying to call me a cow, which, okay, I'll take that on the chin for sure. But one thing about me, if I'm gonna be a cow, who gonna milk me?
We are going to move on. Oh my God, what are you asking the chat right now? We're going to end the show with this. Who rises and who falls? I want you to look ahead. This is obviously the preseason poll. I want you to look ahead to March, to the final regular season edition of this poll. Give me a team. Let's start with risers. Who is going to rise into the top 10 that is not in the top 10 to begin the season?
I think I'm gonna go with Arizona. I think Arizona at 13 is one I really think could rise, even possibly high as a top 5 team in the country. I think that Jaden Bradley is one of the more underappreciated point guards in the country. Their freshman class looks phenomenal. You have Braden Burries coming in. You have Koa Pete, who, Greg, we watched him a lot this summer with the U19 gold medal team. He was on a team with Michael Brown and AJ DeBonsa, and I would listen to arguments that he was the best player on that team. Toby Awaka is one of the better rebounders in the country, if not one of the best rebounders in the country. They also are going to get Krevis back from injury, who I think is going to be a real big boost to them. And then you look at the bench. They have Dwayne Aristote. They have options like Del Orso as well. I just think that this Arizona team is one that is really well coached, and I think they could rise as high as like 5th in the country.
I like that shout. That's absolutely a team that I'm buying as well. I think 13 is too low for Arizona. They're loaded. I will give a different answer just for the sake of differentiation. I think Tennessee's a top 10 team at
Love
the
it,
end of the
Gregory.
season. 18th is really low. This team under Rick Barnes, a lot of different personnel in the last couple of years. They have finished top 10 on Ken Palm in 4 consecutive seasons. They are rarely ranked that high coming in, but the defensive floor is just so high for this program under Rick Barnes. I think this team's awesome. Jacoby Gillespie scored like 38 points in their exhibition game already. Nate Amen's talented as hell. I'm buying every bit of Tennessee stock that I can coming into the year. That's my SEC champion pick, and nobody sees that coming. I like them. Now, give me a team on the flip side. Correlation. Who's going to drop out of this preseason top 25?
Dropping out is nasty work, I must say. But I'm gonna go back to the first thing I talked about at the top of the hour. I have questions about Auburn. I do. I think they have a new coach. I think Tahad Pettiford is also due for a sophomore leap, but I have questions about his decision making, on the court decision making, that is. And I just don't really know what it looks like when they're not with a great team. I think you look at last year's Auburn team, they had Janai Broome, who's the runner-up National Player of the Year behind Cooper Flagg, a generational talent. They also had some other good pieces. Chad Baker Mazara was a major factor on that team. Miles Kelly was a major factor on that team. They're bringing in a lot of different personalities, a new coach. I don't know. I have questions of like if Auburn's going to be able to stay in the top 25 all year.
Okay, I think that's all fair. I don't really disagree with you on Auburn. Once again, I'm going to try and be different than you here. I hate betting against this guy. Bill Self's team is
Oh,
gross. It's gross. The Kansas Jayhawks roster is gross this year. Nobody wants to say it, but listen, how many times have we seen a team that lands the number one overall freshman in the class and surrounds him with a bunch of iffy role players? How many times has that worked? Ever? I mean, seriously, the freshmen that have led teams to championships or Final Fours or anything like that have been surrounded by proven pieces. There's nothing on this team that's proven. The second best player is Flory Badunga, who barely played last year behind Hunter Dickinson. Like, and I like Flory, but then we're talking Jaden Dawson, Elmarco Jackson, Melvin Council. Like, these are not Kansas level players. They're just not. It's putting way too much on the shoulders of Darren Peterson, who I like, but I don't think Bill Self did his due diligence to help him. And I would throw this out there. People don't like saying this or acknowledging it out loud. In 4 of the last 6 seasons, Bill Self's team has finished outside the top 20 on
mm,
Ken. It's trending the wrong direction, and this is his least talented roster ever. I bet Kansas falls out.
that doesn't even sound right.
It sounds gross, but I'll stand by it. All right, we're going to wrap the show with one more chat. Thank you, as always, to everybody for making this a fun, interactive show. Thrasher says, I don't know how we haven't talked about Louisville yet. That team could be lethal. Pat Kelsey's best team. Sleeper for top 5. They're speaking your language.
Yeah, I love this team. Love Michael Brown. Love Ryan Conwell, Isaac McNeely, Adrian Woolley. Just have front court questions. That's really all with this team. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's just like, what does that fun equate to? Is it fun winning or is it just fun watchy?
Yeah, you can't spell Carter Elliott without 2 L's. L's up, right?
Why not?
And also 2 T's, if you think about it.
Oh no.
And you can't see Carter Elliott without 2 D's.
This has been fun.
This has been really fun, hasn't it? It's been a great, great show. We love it here. Bleacher Report, we love you guys. We love all of you. We've got a lot more in store for you. A little programming note for everybody. I don't think we are going to have a live show in its normal format next Wednesday. However, we're going to be doing something awesome. We'll be at Big 12 Media Day with Bleacher Report, interviewing the biggest names, biggest players, biggest coaches in that conference, the best conference in college basketball. So more to come on that. Stay tuned. That's next Wednesday in place of our typical live show. Carter, I feel it's only right to give you the final word.
Listen, college basketball season is upon us. Get with us or get lost.
You heard the man. We'll see you next week.